What is going on, you guys? So today I have another quick episode for you. This one is from the Chris Williamson Modern Wisdom podcast, and it's going over this episode with his guest Neil Strauss. It's called Ex Pickup Artist Reacts to Modern Dating Advice. Should be interesting, so let's get into it.
Are you familiar with LMS? Do you know what that is?
No.
Lux Money Status.
Oh, wait, it makes sense. Okay.
So it's the triage priority list that a lot of guys in the black pill movement rely on and say is most important. Lux is most important, then money, then status.
For men?
Yes, for men. What's your thoughts?
My thoughts is it's a sad way to think. it's a sad way to think. I guess I'm just kind of thinking out loud. I got a bunch of thoughts on the stuff you're saying. But to speak back to your what you were saying about what it's like to be someone, I think mostly we're all living our own stories of what it's like. And I think if you choose to see the best in people, you're gonna notice the best behavior. If you choose to see the worst in people, you're gonna notice the worst behavior. And I think it starts with the eyes you're seeing the world through.
Yeah, because everything we see is in our own perspective, right? So it might not necessarily be true for somebody else, and right, like your narrative, like whatever you're seeking confirmation bias, right? Like what you believe to be true, you're seeking confirmation that that's true. So you're just looking more of the same thing or for more of the same thing. And so you're like, if you think you can or can't, you're right. And whatever story you're telling yourself, you're looking for reasons to believe it, basically.
And so down to Lux Money Status, I think they got it wrong. I think that there's that, and how would they define status? I guess I'll ask you.
I wouldn't be too sure. I would guess something like popularity.
Right. So I would say it's high status behaviors. And I mean, I know this because I went and hacked it in the game, right? As a guy who is not that good looking, as a guy who, at least at that time, didn't have any wasn't someone recognized, didn't have status, didn't have money, didn't have looks, didn't have fame. We realized, and I also was a guy who, once I wrote the game, I had the people with the most looks, the most money, the most status, calling me like this fucking 5'6" big nose, dude who keeps saying and can't even articulate a really clean sentence, calling me for advice. The same shit I thought I was alone dealing with, they were dealing with the same thing. And I think it really goes down to the story you tell yourself, more than money, looks, and status, and then how you reflect that story. As a simple example, I've seen a lot of people with money, looks, and status engage in low status behaviors, meaning being insecure, being doubtful, not carrying themselves well, not speaking, just always being worried about what others are thinking about them, and whatever those gained for them, they lost it. There's a line.
Well, a lot of celebrities are like that. So I mean, that's a fair point. Like musicians, celebrities, right? Like they seemingly have all of it. They have it all, right? But they still have that insecurity behind them.
There's like a troubadour poem that's something about when they were first sort of talking about making romance into art in that era. That's like the eyes go forth to seek an image which they can then recommend to the heart. And so I think the money, looks, and status might get your foot in the door, but after that, it's who you are that enables you to stay in that door, unless you're dealing with someone who has similarly low self-esteem, right? And it's just out there looking for a target who has those things because they've got their own wounds. They feel like that gives them safety.
I think
let's go. Sorry, go ahead.
Just one of the interesting reflections that a lot of friends who maybe in the early 2010s were trying to do game and pick up and day game, and
it should be worth mentioning too, like the looks and stuff, like it gets you in the door. So don't forget that, right? Because a lot of people will forego. They'll say, "Oh, now I don't need to go to the gym. Now I don't need to work on my finances. They should just love me for me." And that's more like a sense of entitlement, right? Like you have to realize that there's a reason that you're attracted to them first, the woman, right? Like they look good. Now you want to know if they're cool. And if they're cool, then you stay together. You keep seeing each other. You see where it goes, right? And the same goes for you. You're not exempt from that. There's no excuse for you, right? So you have to continue looking good and also being a good person, right? You have to develop everything. So it gets you in the door, and you have to remember that, right? Like you see a girl, you want to talk to her because she's attractive. A girl sees you, she's interested at first because you're attractive and then wants to know more about you. Don't forget that.
Like that. What they realized was they became quite disenchanted, I think, with the world of dating because they saw what they needed to do in order to be attractive to women and then realized the distance that was from who they really were or what they thought they needed to do in order to be attractive to women, and realized that I can get what I want, but what I want doesn't actually see me. And that distance between the two of I'm having to tell them about the midget fight outside and do my Kino escalation and ignore and do all the rest of the stuff, that I think caused a lot of them to become very disenfranchised and disenchanted with the world of dating.
Yeah, I think, a couple thoughts, and to go back. So again, these are like the stories we tell ourselves. Like, I think that there's a learning process, and maybe you learn. If I look back on the game, there's so many different issues around.
By the way, he's acknowledging it right now too, but the game was a book, if you don't know, that gained a lot of popularity. I'm not sure if it was in the 2000s, but it was around when like all the pickup artist stuff started to gain popularity. Like there was a TV show, I think, on like MTV or something. It all gained popularity. There's even a clip, I believe, of a while back, like Neil Strauss, this guy, on a talk show. I'm not sure what the talk show was, but he was picking up Jessica Alba, and it was working. Right. So what I'm saying is he got that stuff down to a science and then realized that there's a lot of flaws with it. Right. So he's acknowledging that right now. And I think it actually put him in a situation where he questioned a lot of things and had to rethink or rewire a lot of things afterwards, after he learned that stuff, because he realized that there was inherent issues with it, and it was causing trouble for him and in his relationship. So that's definitely worth you knowing if you're even thinking about game and pickup. Truthfully, I think it's BS, and I think he's gotten to the point where he realizes that too. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the person that you built, in that genuine confidence and a genuine ability to create a healthy connection. Because the magic pickup line, the magic this and that isn't going to get you that far. Just remember that.
It's negative and positive and everything else. But I see it as a lot of sort of neurodivergent people trying to learn how to socially interact, including myself, right? Yep. And so for me, I needed those little, I didn't know, just tell me what to say and how to angle my body. Mm-hmm. I was so uncomfortable around people. And then once I learned it, then I could let it go the same way you learn anything, which is sort of learning the rules and then throwing them out.
Yep.
So second, I got 3 points to make. Again, these topics are so interesting, right? Second thought is that another perspective on the LMS thing you said, which the second perspective is people don't know what they want. So what they want are the things behind that. So a way to think about, for example, it used to really hurt my self-esteem when I read personal ads and everyone wanted a guy who was 6 feet and taller. How tall are you?
5'10".
Okay, that's great, right? I'm 5'6", maybe 5'6.5" at a stretch, right? And it took me a long time to realize that it wasn't height that they were looking for. What they were looking for was safety. I want to feel when maybe what is, let's just say, what does money represent? Money represents that some degree of security,
competence,
and competence. That was the word I was looking for. Exactly, competence. So if you look at the reasons underneath these and you embody the reasons underneath these, which anybody can do, the other stuff doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think that's where the sort of disenchantment came from, which was not feeling like you had the actual foundation, realizing that you could create the glitzy sort of mystique. Like, you do not need to see how much money I have. You do not need to see how much money I have. And then going, oh, I can get what I want by pretending to play this game. And deep down, I still don't feel like I'm worthy of it. I don't think that they see me. What they see is this persona. As
soon as you're saying, I don't want you to know how little money I have, you're like that influencer we were talking about earlier who's promoting a vegan diet while eating meat for dinner. You're creating a split in yourself. So here's the other thing you were talking about is, I think these people you're talking about, the concept of locus of control. Like, there's external locus of control and internal locus of control. And I'm probably going to get these wrong, so apologies if I do. So the idea is are the things that are happening to me the fault of others outside myself, which is a nice thing to believe, right? It's just women are like that, thus I'm opting out. Men are like that,
and that's a lack of accountability, right? It's not, oh, they're like that, there's nothing I can do. Of course there's something you can do. You can improve. And there's a certain type of person who will watch this sort of thing and be like, oh, I give up, blah blah blah. And it's just like, they don't understand that there's things that they can work on, things that they can change. So basically they have the sense of entitlement, and they're blaming everyone else for their lack of ability to create a solid foundation here. And what they're saying, right, Neil and Chris just touched on that after I mentioned it, right, is you could have the flashy, like the pickup line, blah, 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 but at the end of the day, if you don't have the foundation, the genuine confidence, like the competence to build the finances, the competence to problem solve in your life, to learn, grow, be that person of character, like be interesting, right? Because you've actually done like helpful things for people, maybe traveled a little bit, right? Like you've learned, you've read a lot of books, you've consumed really interesting things, and also, you're just a kind person, right? You know how to take care of your body and help other people, right? Like this is kind of the stuff they're talking about. Like you could be a person of substance, or you could be all the little fluff on top with the pickup line, and you can't blame everybody else for why it's not working for you, right? You have to own up that you can't be entitled to this. You have to actually put in the work to be the person that you want to attract, basically.
Just not dealing with that. The world, and so we're just saying we're creating this, it's everybody else's fault, so I don't have to change. I can just hate on them, right? Or B, the way I am and the way I think you are, is that like, this is going on. How can I do better? How can I change? How can I be better? How can I understand? How can I be empathic? And like, it's a lot more work, but man, you're a lot happier.
Yeah, I think the benefit, from the cynic's perspective, the benefit of never trying is never having to feel the pain of failure.
Yeah.
I came up with this idea called the cynicism safety blanket, which is basically that. That's what, that's why it exists. It's sour grapes at an existential level.
Yeah. And so I notice myself, if I ever start to, and I don't even do this anymore because I stopped it. Like if I ever start thinking something negatively about someone who's.
That's worth mentioning, by the way. Like you're so afraid of failure that you're willing to live your entire life, or too long, probably, without even trying. And you realize one day that either you should have tried way sooner, or you went your whole life and you're like, man, I wish I had tried. I should have done that. What if I did that? Because you're so afraid of something that is, you're making a mountain. You probably heard that saying, like making a mountain out of a molehill. It was really just you breaking past your mental barriers.
Successful. And start comparing their work to mine, and my mind, I just stop instantly, and I just think, what can I learn from that for myself? And again, most of your listeners, I feel like, are learning, growth-minded people.
Correct,
but I think we can understand that there's certain people, and I've come across them, that if somebody is doing better than you, you can either try to do better, or you can try to bring them down. To your level. And that's a split in the world. But the people who try to bring them down are the loud voices right now.
Correct.
In the culture.
Correct. In other news, this episode.
By the way, it's not worth being the negative, judgmental, loud voice. Oh, that's cringe, blah, blah, blah. Like, just what he was just saying is perfect, right? None of that is going to help you. Figure out what you might be able to learn from them. Take accountability and make yourself better. Just improve, right? That's it. That's it at the end of the day. I mean, like there's no excuse for not doing that. So, at the end of the day, like just think about what kind of person is coming from that, like, judgmental space, right? The negative criticism, the negative feedback, the negative comments, blah, blah, blah. I mean, essentially it's envy and jealousy and insecurity seeping out of you versus you looking at it in a healthy way. Where like, whoa, like that's cool that they're doing that. That's cool that they're doing really well. Maybe even in a similar thing that I'm doing right now, or something that I'm interested in doing. Like, how are they doing that? Like you see the difference there? It's like so much more positive, so much more like you're a student of life. You want to learn from people. And more than likely, a lot of times when you're judging somebody like that, they would be more than happy if you just walked up to them and complimented them. Like, they'd probably be happy to talk to you about it, right? Maybe even at some point, like give you a little bit of advice on what you might be able to improve. So, it's never worth your time judging people like that. And just what you can do is focus on improving, right? That's the moral of the story here. Awesome, guys. Well, thanks for watching today. I hope you were able to take something valuable from this episode, and I'll see you in the next one. You got this, bro.